what side of the heart you're looking at. Am I looking at the back or the front? So, the way I figured out to figure out the front from back is A, the apex kind of points a little bit to the left side. So this heart is the front side. So this is facing anterior. So you can see that apex is pointing a little to the left. Another thing you're looking for is, if it has it, it's the pulmonary trunk. It sits right on the top. So these hearts, the pulmonary trunk is towards the front. If you're looking at the back side, it's a jumbled mess. And the apex is now pointing more to the right. Another thing you can look for on the outside is the interventricular sulcus. Remember, the sulcus is that groove. On the front of the heart, it goes at this big angle. So this is the interventricular sulcus. On the front side, anterior. On the back side, it goes straight down. So it is straight down on the back side. So that's how you look at it from the top, from the outside. Once you have the heart open, once you're looking at the inside, it becomes a little more obvious which is left and right. The right side is a very small ventricle. Even on this heart where it's open so you can see that ventricle better, it's still a lot smaller. The left side has that really big ventricle and a much bigger myocardium. So that myocardium is so big because we need to pump that blood all over the body, while the right side is just pumping the blood to the lungs, which lungs sit right here. It's not like they're very far. So once you figured out which way is left and right, even when I have it turned this way, this is still the left side because it's got that thick wall, bigger ventricle. So once you have that figured out, the rest isn't so bad. We have to find our 4 chambers. That's the next step. So, right atrium is going to be hard to see on most hearts. This is how most of the hearts are cut. You can't see that right atrium too good. It's up here somewhere. But this one was cut so that you can see it. So the atriums are going to be above the valves, the AV valves. So this is the right atrium, right ventricle. We can see the right ventricle in all the hearts. Left atrium, you can see real good on most hearts. It's this big open space. On this heart, they actually cut it open like that. So that's that left atrium. And the left ventricle is the big open giant ventricle. Okay, so once you have the chambers, start looking for the valves. So from this valve, once you know how blood flows through the heart, we're going to be looking for the tricuspid on the right side. That's the AV valve that goes from the right atrium to the right ventricle. So this is the tricuspid. It's right to tri. So if you're on the right side and you see one with strings on it, tricuspid. And you got to try it before you buy it. So I'll show you the bicuspid on this heart. Bicuspid is really the one between the left atrium and the left ventricle. So all of this. Then you need to find the semilinear valves. Those are the ones where we're going from the ventricles out of the heart. So the aortic semilinear, well, start with the pulmonary semilinear valve. You can only see in this heart. It's the only one we have that you can see the pulmonary semilinear valve on. But it's going to be going along the pulmonary trunk. That big one on the front. Find the pulmonary trunk. All right, pulmonary semilinear valve. It looks like a little sac right there. That little piece of tissue. That's the pulmonary semilinear valve. The rest of the hearts, you can more easily see the aortic semilinear valve. So from the left ventricle, you go out through the aorta. So this sac is the aortic semilinear valve. And it's just a little floppy sac thing. All right, so you found all the valves, you found all the chambers. Now we have a lot of little accessory things to find. All right, the outside layer is the epicardium. That's the part of your heart that makes pericardial fluid. The muscle, all of this muscle is myocardium. And the inside smooth stuff in here is the endocardium. So epi outside, myomuscular, endo inside. The strings that are attached to these tricuspid and bicuspid valves are called chorda tendini. And those chorda tendini are attached to specialized muscles called papillary muscles. Little old pappies. They look like an old man's gums. You can see it on this side. See See, they kind of look bulbous compared to the other muscles. Those are the papillary muscles. Okay, so those are main structures. One last other little structure here is these crisscrossy ones at the bottom of the ventricles. It's called trabeculae carnae. Okay, now for the hard part. Now we have to find all the different ins and outs, all the vessels going into and out of the heart. And the way we usually do this on the exam is we'll run a probe through and then open it up. And if you know where that probe is supposed to be going, you can kind of figure it out. Well, the pulmonary trunk is a tricky one because that's going into the side of the heart. It's going to be coming out of the left ventricle. The aorta, on the other hand, I'll do the aorta on this heart. The aorta is going into the left ventricle. So you're going to find the aorta here, and the first branch off of the aorta is the brachiocephalic artery. So you can see that on this model too. The big red one is the aorta, and that first branch is the brachiocephalic artery. Same like in the rabbits, you've been studying that. All right, so aorta is right smack in the middle, brachiocephalic is this one. If we run a probe through, this should both come out, so my fingers are touching each other right now. They should both go into the left ventricle. All right, so those are the two big ones coming out, pulmonary trunk and aorta. Now we've got the things going into the atriums. Those are a little tougher. This one right here is going into the right atrium. This is going to be a vena cava. Because remember, your superior and inferior vena cava feed into the right atrium. So we will have probes running through so that you can see where it's headed. On this heart, you can see it a little bit better right there. It's going to that right atrium. That'd be a vena cava. The ones going into the left atrium, those are coming back from the lungs. So they would be pulmonary, and they're coming back, so they're veins. Pulmonary veins. And for that one, it's right there. So that's where you see your pulmonary vein. So I've been stressing to you guys over and over and over, make sure you know the flow of blood through the heart. The reason for it is so you can figure out these vessels. It all comes down to this. So on the test, you see a probe going into that left atrium. Now you know what it is. It's a pulmonary vein. Aorta is coming out of there. But that's it. That's all the parts I can think of. Oh, apex. We already talked about that a little bit. It's the tip of the heart. Ooh, the auricles. Auricles, they're just the flaps on the front of the heart. So here's the auricle of the left atrium. Here's the auricle of the right atrium. It's the floppy little parts coming off of the front of the heart.
And the interventricular septum?
Interventricular septum is the dividing line between the two ventricles. It's a septum. Like any other septum in the body, it divides something. Anything else?
That's it.
All right.